Smug author reviews own book, Double X, a romantic comedy about lost love and lookalikes. Today's chapter, Chapter 6, Coffee and Complications. If you missed previous episodes/chapters, fear not. They're all wonderfully entertaining and you can go back anytime and check them out. Chapter 6, Coffee and Complications. Now remember, our lead characters come across as somewhat shallow in the early stages of the book, but we're peeling away the layers slowly, learning that there is so much depth to not only the characters, but this incredible novel, that by the end of the book you'll be absolutely wowed. With that in mind, hair, long, dark and straight, likeness match, 7 out of 10. Face, nice eyes, long nose, likeness match, 7 out of 10. Height, about right, likeness match, 9 out of 10. Boobs, flat, likeness match, 6 out of 10. Arse, sweet, likeness match, 10 out of 10. Legs, knees slightly bruised, like the implication. Likeness match, 9 out of 10. Scent, cheap, likeness match, 6 out of 10. Overall, decent option. Try a few more drinks. Nick grinned wildly at the brunette preparing his cappuccinos behind the counter of the small Camden coffee house, mustering as much pheromone as possible and sending a hefty dose her way. She sensed his intensity and sized him up, smiling sweetly as she handed him his change. Not bad at all, he boasted to Lucy, stood at his side, watching him with contempt. Seat, he suggested, and took the coffees from the counter, giving the barista his best wink-smile combo. He chose a nearby table and sat on the opposite side, facing the half-decent replica, currently eyeing him as she needlessly unravelled coins and filled the already full till. "Focus, Nick," Lucy barked at her distracted companion. "Sorry, what?" he said sarcastically, overemphasizing eye contact. "We came here to talk, didn't we?" "Yes, and we are. Not if your attention's on that girl's ass." "Fair enough," he acquiesced. "It's just been a while. Does she even look like Sophia?" Nick took out his wallet and handed Lucy a small passport photo. "You've never seen a picture of her, have you?" Lucy regarded the image. "This isn't a photo. Have you drawn this?" "I used to keep a passport pic in my wallet, but it didn't capture her right, so I illustrated one. It has a much better energy, don't you think?" "Suppose so. Of course, she looks very beautiful." "I know," he said, taking the picture and looking at it longingly. "The girl serving didn't really look like her," she stated. "She's halfway there. The rest is down to squinting." "You." Nick laughed and settled into his chair. He glowered as he watched Lucy sip her cappuccino and meticulously blot leftover froth from her lip with a handkerchief she plucked from her handbag. He scanned her chest and neckline. "I feel like a rhino at a strip club," he sighed. Lucy lowered her handkerchief. "What?" "Horny," he said with raised eyebrows. Lucy's expression barely broke as she involuntarily released frisky pheromones of her own. He leaned forwards and placed his hand on top of hers. "So, weekend in Tenerife, eh?" he said, believing his genuine inner excitement was because of the indulgent trip, failing to realise it was actually inspired by the here and now and person he was currently with. "I know," she leaned closer to sharing his moment. "So your dad lives out there?" Nick prickled and slowly released his hand from Lucy's. "How did that come about? Did he decide to retire to a cosy villa in the sun?" "Not exactly," he answered, sitting back and crossing his arms. He threw a sullen look at the blushing barista, who turned away after an intense few seconds of eye contact, which to her felt like a naughty mini eternity. "Well, come on, who is he?" Lucy pressed. "Lucy," he said seriously and retook her hand. "When are we going to go out again? You know, sharing our common interest." "Common interest?" she parroted, a large crease between her eyes rising like a thermometer. "Yeah, you know, helping each other find fixes." "Are you kidding? Is that really our common interest?" "It is what it is," he said arrogantly. "After all, it's the bloody basis of our relationship." "Then that shows how screwed up our relationship is," she spat, rising to her feet and putting the strap of her bag over her shoulder. "Silly me, I forgot we're not supposed to be normal and have normal conversations like normal bloody people." "Lucy." Agitated, she started to collect her belongings from the table. Oh no, we have to relive the past and play depraved games, she yelled, placing the salt and pepper pops in her bag and lifting them out again. The dark-haired barista looked away embarrassed and pretended to clean the coffee machine. Lucy, please, he hushed, pleading with his eyes. Konrad's right, you are just chasing memories, and she turned to leave. Oh really, and so are you, he shouted as she powered through the coffee house. Not anymore, she called back, nearly snagging herself on the corner of a adjacent table, but impressively turning her misstep into a shortcut for the door with a defiant spin of her heels. Wonderfully descripted. What an author. Nick stirred. Lucy, wait. And as she yanked the door open, he got to his feet and held out his hands. I haven't spoken to my dad in 3 years. Lucy paused, caught between the cafe and the street. Nick could feel her edging away, so he played the ace up his sleeve. And he lives in a cave, he said, dramatically throwing his hands in the air and slumping into the chair. Lucy's interest was piqued. Her eyes lit like candles, and the tiniest of smiles flashed across her lips. She carefully closed the door and decided to rejoin her offensive friend. Fighting curiosity, she calmly sat down and looked at Nick's low gaze and defeated demeanour. A cave? Go on. Nick, still looking at his shoes, thought for a moment, then raised his head and resignedly opened up. My parents were hippies. Okay, she said, taking his hand. Like, proper out there. With you so far, she said reassuringly. Nick looked away, feeling uncomfortable. He turned back with an anxious smile. God, this is very confessional. It feels like an intervention or something. He raised his hand as if swearing an oath and addressed the space behind Lucy as if it were an audience. Hello, my name is Nick Green, and I'm a recovering hippie. Lucy smiled weakly. Don't worry, it's good to talk about things. She rubbed the top of his hand. I know, and I want us to be normal, have normal conversations. And we will one day. Now continue telling me about your hippie dad that lives in a cave. Nick laughed, and a weight of reluctance left his body. He knew he had a sympathetic ear. Samoan Sam sipped his espresso as he waited outside Josh's office, regarding a group of workers in black overalls reorganising a spacious gallery. He sighed as the rich coffee revitalised his bulky frame and tenderly raised his little finger as he brought the cup to his lips for another slurp. Get in here, called a gruff voice from behind the door. Sam set the cup down and entered the office. What have you got for me? Josh asked impatiently as he signed papers at his large L-shaped desk. Nothing new, boss. I've had to lay low for a while. What? I think I might have been seen, he said, recalling a public spectacle in the park and having to flee from a chubby one-armed man. So haven't you had a word with Lucy? Not yet, boss. Jesus, Sam, I need her out of the picture. Her involvement makes me very edgy, and I don't like being edgy, he said, getting to his feet. I understand. And you got nothing new on Nick? Josh asked as he walked towards the drinks counter. No. So why the wasted visit? I'm extremely busy, Sam. I remembered who that woman was at the park. Who? He asked, pouring a large cognac. Her name's Amanda. She was the big shot lawyer who sent my brother Mickey down, he answered bitterly. What for? 12 counts of fraud and embezzlement. Your brother's marrying Mickey? Yeah, but you're Samoan. Boss, we've been over this. If you remember in chapter 1, he was called Samoan Sam by school friends, despite being Maori, because it sounded better. Oh well, potato potato, you all look the same anyway. Don't worry, a retort is coming back. Samoan Sam cringed and clenched his fist as the mental image of smashing Josh across the room entered his Polynesian psyche. He breathed deeply and returned to the topic at hand. I'd love the chance to get that bitch back. No way, too risky. There's something else. What? Her surname's Colston. So? The same as Lucy's. Really, Josh said, as the colour drained from his face. And seeing as they were with Nick at the park, and that they look quite similar, although all you Europeans do to me, there's the retort. I think it's fair to say that they are sisters. And for some reason they've jumped to Nick's defence, Josh said, pacing the office. This makes things very complicated. What can they really do, boss? Nick's already pleaded guilty. If you remember in chapter 1, he KO'd Josh, Nick, in a pub, and there is a GBH case ongoing. This is bigger than just Nick, Josh interrupted. Lucy has something on me that Sophia must never find out. And her sister, if she's who you say, may take an unwelcome interest in this case and dig up things I'd rather leave hidden. Sam, The need to get them out of the picture is paramount. Do you understand? Yes, boss. Can I rely on you to warn them off discreetly? Sam smiled. I think so. Josh's eyes widened. You think? Of course, boss. Of course, he said, and exited the office. Josh returned to his desk and slumped in his chair, resting his head in his sweaty palms. Back to the coffee house. And this is where the pace of the book really starts to quicken and some of the layers begin to be peeled away as we discover the truth behind both of our lead characters. Not as shallow as you first thought. Where to start? Well, my parents' methods were different, Nick said. Yeah, I got that, Lucy said. Oh, you have no idea. Try me. Growing up, I didn't have one father. I had three. Now you're intrigued, right? Lucy sat with her mouth open, edging forwards. My earth father was my biological dad, the one in Tenerife. My spiritual father was just some pagan priest or other who thought he had a direct line to the source of all energy and tried to open my channels. My fire father was, well, pretty cool actually. He was like a life coach who encouraged my passions and allowed me to grow doing things I wanted. It was basically like spending time with the softest parent in the world. It explains a lot, Lucy joked. Nick flinched at the jibe and appreciating the sensitivity of the subject, Lucy decided to backtrack. And your mother? My mum was my mum, he said, dreamily looking to the distance. She homeschooled me and gave me complete love every second of the day. An incredible woman, and until Sophia, I'd never met anyone like her. And she and your three dads were... what? Lovers? She asked awkwardly. It was a commune, Lucy. I don't know what that means. Nick faltered, uncomfortable with the question. I don't... He looked at her resolutely. Probably. Jesus, I knew you were screwed up, but this is... She stopped short. Sorry. That's okay. I moved away from all that when I was 11. I was always running away and my mum could see I was rejecting it more and more. After I burned down a commune temple and made my spiritual dad have a mental breakdown, she moved her to my nan's house outside Cambridge. I joined the same school as Konrad and, from then at least, I had a relatively normal upbringing. Relatively normal, she echoed, laughing to herself. So how did you end up in London? Con and I started living together when we went to university. We have ever since. Cool, she said, impressed with his unusual life tale. But you said you aren't talking to your dad. Is that just your earth father or all three? You trying to wind me up? No, genuine question. My real dad. I never saw the other two after we moved away. So why don't you speak to him anymore? The minute my mum died, he moved to Tenerife with another woman, a hippie called Astral, which is actually her real name, believe that if you will. This is amazing, Lucy drawled, her chest resting on the back of her hands, devouring his every word. He was always resentful about having to rejoin society for my sake. My mum, to her credit, tried to be as conventional as possible, but he was unbearable. It's one of the main reasons I moved out. Was he violent? No, nothing like that. He was just an utter idiot. Nick started to laugh. He even changed his name to I Love. I Love. Yeah, I love green. It was a cannabis statement. Oh, Lucy said disappointingly. I know, he used it as an icebreaker to get women too. He'd change his surname so he'd be I Love Head or I Love Bottom, something like that. All very degrading. What was his real name? Norman, he answered. Lucy's eyebrows nearly hit the ceiling. I know, and just one letter away from normal. Ironic, isn't it? The pair absently sipped their cappuccinos and reflected a moment. All previous tension was decimated when they spontaneously burst into a fit of laughter. Nick sprayed coffee from his nose onto the table, and neither was entirely certain why the other was laughing so hard, but it didn't seem to matter. It was most fitting, considering the absurdity of the topic. After a while, Lucy composed herself. So, your pot-loving hippie father, one of three, changed his name to I Love as a cool way of meeting women and endorsing marijuana, and now lives in a cave in Tenerife of Astral, she summarised, dabbing at her tear-filled eyes. Basically, he replied, also sobbing from the euphoric release. God, that's funny, she said, looking away. Incredible story, Nick, I have to give it to you. I'm glad my family tree is so amusing. A cave, though, how does that even work? Around a protected reserve, there's a network of natural caves which is home to a small community of bohemians and the like. They set up home there and busk outside bars, fish, scavenge for food, and basically live outside the system. I suppose they're happy like that. If you know El Medano and Tenerife, that's a very good description. I can see why you've been reluctant to visit him, she said, shaking her head. Although, you know you really should, don't you? Yeah, I know, he said, turning his gaze to the brunette barrister who'd been staring at him during the whole conversation. Lucy drained the remaining dregs of cappuccino and got to her feet. I better get ready for tonight. Do you want to come back and chill at mine? Nick sat upright. Go with you? Yeah, you still want to go to the gig? Maybe after we could go out somewhere, you know. Nick checked the beaming barista as she twirled the ends of her hair. You know what? I think I'm just going to stay here, he said, staring at the brunette as Van Morrison's brown-eyed girl played softly around the cafe. Hey, where did we go? Lucy's shoulders slumped and the crease on her forehead returned with verve. She tried to offer a casual reply, but his rejection twisted her insides. Without word, she grabbed her bag and walked out, uninterrupted this time. Nick approached the girl, who quivered with every step until his looming presence was upon her like a shrouding shadow. You seem like a beautiful, intelligent woman. Do you want to hear a D.H. Lawrence poem I adore so much? The book Blurb. Nick and Lucy forge an unlikely alliance after they discover their lust for dead ringers of lost loves and help each other meet eligible suitors on London's dating scene. Trouble looms when friends and siblings grow concerned at their obsession for chasing memories, and with problems mounted around their intensifying relationship, they soon find their journey takes a heart-stopping turn. Nick's best friend Konrad is nursing an aching heart of his own, but befriends beleaguered celebrity Corsica Coleman, following a fateful encounter that would shape their very future. Together, they launch a series of high-profile events that will halt plans to develop an area of London heathland, derail a tyrannical tycoon, and alter everyone's lives beyond imagination. Double X, a righteous comedy about love, obsession, and friendship. Lee Bullen. Who's that stunner? Woof woof. Is the best-selling author of Beset, Double X, and numerous comedies and novelettes. He previously worked as an illustrator, it's true, and screenwriter, but now solely devotes his time to crafting natty novels. His personal interests include squirrel romancing, ferret fondling, and stringing the guitar. His more intelligible writings are available in paperback and ebook at Amazon.